They existed before us more than 5 millenniums ago. They had their own laws, and we are here to tell you about them. Welcome to History Reports channel.
Even before kingship became the accepted form of government in ancient Sumerian lands, people had been drawing up legal agreements, a process that had begun at least as early as 2700 BC, and like cuneiform writing itself, it was rooted in the needs of commerce. Tablets surviving from that time bear witness to transactions involving the sale of land, houses, and slaves. As Sumerian society became more complex, the demand arose for uniform laws to govern not only commercial transactions, but also civil and criminal conduct. The kings answered this need by issuing collections of laws. The earliest collection of laws unearthed so far dates from the reign of Nammu, king of the city of who ruled in the 21st century BC. It was probably devised by King son, Shulgi. Written royal decrees must certainly have been handed down several centuries before that. Even so, Nammu's set of laws precedes that far better known written guide to conduct, the biblical 10 Commandments, by about 1,000 years. Only 5 of Nammu's laws can be read, because the sole surviving copy, a clay tablet inscribed on both sides, is badly damaged. 3 of those 5 rules are of specific interest because they seem to reflect a remarkably enlightened judicial philosophy. In an age when the ancient rule of an eye for an eye prevailed, King Nammu's laws prescribed fines instead of corporal punishment or mutilation as the penalty for physical injury inflicted upon another person. Sumer had exhibited originality. It appears not only in codifying written laws, but also in making the laws more humane. The operation of judicial system also seems to have been enlightened. There are no juries, but defendants were tried before a panel of several judges, usually elders selected from the community, and testimony was taken from witnesses under oath. Verdict could be appealed to the king himself. Written laws and contracts played an important part not only in criminal justice and commerce, but also in marriage. In the wedding ceremony, a scribe engraved a tablet with the agreed-up marriage contract, and the bride and groom then signed it. The contract specified, among other provisions, the duties of each spouse and the penalties the husband would pay should he decide upon a divorce. Married and single women had a number of important rights under Sumerian law. They could own property, engage in business, and qualify as witness in court. In other ways, however, they were second-class citizens. For example, family was patrilineal, and property was handed down from father to son. And the rules of marriage seemed to have been one-sided. By law and custom, the husband could take one or more concubines, divorce his wife if she proved barren, and even sell her into slavery for as long as 3 years to obtain money to pay off his debts. Perhaps the most remarkable of all the surviving Sumerian documents relating to law tablet that preceded Nammu's collection of laws by about 200 years. This tablet tells a story that illuminates the notion of justice, describing reforms undertaken in the city-state of Lagash around the year of 2350 BC by King Urukagina. The document begins by recounting the worst abuses of the previous regime. High taxes and oppressive laws, originally put into effect because the city-state was engaged in war, had been carried over in peacetime. Tax collectors and other corrupt royal officials were everywhere, taking donkeys and sheep from farmers and even showing up at cemeteries to seize a portion of the bread and barley that families carried to furnish the graves of their recently deceased relatives. According to the tablet, the king Urukagina changed all this. He fired the dishonest tax collectors and tainted officials, gave amnesty to citizens unjustly imprisoned, and most importantly, he decreed ordinances protecting ordinary citizens from exploitation by the government. In the unknown author's account of all this, there appears for the first time in recorded history the word freedom. There were also laws pertaining to slaves. Some slaves were ordinary citizens who were being punished for a crime. Others were prisoners of war. However, many slaves entered bondage voluntarily. Many landless peasants, for example, sometimes sold themselves as slaves simply for meals and a place to sleep. Peasants could legally sell their children into slavery. A man in desperate financial straits might turn over his entire family, himself included, to a creditor to an agreed-upon time in satisfaction of his debts. Although slaves were legally the property of the master, and could be branded, flogged, or otherwise severely punished for transgressions such attempted escape, they had many rights. They could engage in business and borrow money. If a slave was married to a free spouse, any of their children were free from birth. Slaves could even buy their own freedom. Much later on, after 1800 BC, King Hammurabi effected great changes during a remarkable reign of 42 years. Hammurabi's best-known legacy is the collection of laws. Preserved as engravings on a 7-feet-high monument of black diorite, the Code of Hammurabi lists close to 300 royal legal decisions. They relate to civil matters such as workers' wages and describe penalties for criminal offenses, ranging from felling a neighbor's date palm without his consent to committing murder. Although evidently influenced by Sumerian law and custom, these penalties also reflect the much harsher Amorite tradition. But Hammurabi's legal achievements paled by comparison with his political and military achievements, making alliances and breaking them when it suited him. Molding his Amorites into disciplined army, he took on the quarreling city-states of Sumer and conquered them one by one. In short order, he succeeded in welding Sumer and northern Mesopotamia into a single nation. Under Babylonian rule, the last of the Sumerian poets sorrowfully jabbed cuneiform sticks into soft clay, pouring out lamentations for the political demise of their land. Yet, in the very act of writing, they were ensuring that the ideals of Sumer would not die but would leave their wedge-shaped marks on future civilizations, enriching many cultures through the centuries to come.